welcome on your favorite show, the Be Happier podcast with Coach Kaya. And today I have with me a friend, a colleague, a compadre, Kestrel Cservenak. Cservenak? Is that how you would say?
Cservenak with the CH.
It's okay. CS. Okay, so Cservenak. So there you go. I call her my friend, and I didn't even know how to pronounce her last name correctly. So I'm not even going to try to introduce her because she has an amazing story to share. And her intro, the first time I heard it, got me so curious. And when I put it out there, like, I'm looking for guests, she said, I want to be in. And I'm like, oh, this is perfect. So, Kestrel, go ahead and tell us who you are, what are you most passionate about, and whatever it is, the way you would like to introduce yourself to our guest here listening today.
Ooh, I love that. My name is Kestrel Cservenak. I live in Pueblo, Colorado. I am a mom to two amazing boys. I am the wife to an amazing husband, and I am your perimenopause bestie. So I really think that Gen X women are ready to talk about perimenopause and all of the changes that are happening in our body. And I have a really unique perspective in that I don't see perimenopause as something horrendous that we all have to live through, but rather as a way of connecting to the communication that our body has for us, in the same way that we as women have so much to offer the rest of the world in our lives, with better boundaries, with better communication, with just better communication in general. Our body does the same thing. She puts up with fewer shenanigans. She has better boundaries. She has a lot that she wants to tell us. And we often get really upset that it seems like it's a betrayal, but it's really her getting stronger in her communication the same way that we as women do. And I think it's a really beautiful time of connection.
Mm-hmm. Amazing that you even qualified menopause, and you said not the entire menopausal time that a woman goes through, and even men do, but you picked a specific, you niched it down to perimenopause. So to our audience, most probably it's a woman, but even if it's a man who has a woman in his life, what is perimenopause?
So perimenopause is typically what we think of as menopause. Menopause is actually defined as 12 months after your last period. So there's no such thing as post-menopause. It's just menopause. But the time leading up to that is perimenopause, and that can start as early. Typically, it starts at 36 to 37 years old. So we kind of have this idea that it's in our 50s, it's a small blip of time. We go through menopause, we have hot flashes, we're kind of grumpy, and then it's over, right? But it actually starts as early as 36 to 37. For some women, it's even earlier than that, where our body starts to change. It's why women who are 35 or older are in a different category in motherhood, right? When we're pregnant, when we're going through pregnancy, we're put into another category. They call it geriatric pregnancy, which I have a lot of problems with, but it's because the hormones are starting to change that early on. So we actually live through perimenopause for decades. It's not just a small little blip of time.
Okay, I took that pause because I needed to take that pause because there was a lot of background noise in my area. And I think that was a great time for it to even sink down, you know. So what we think of as menopause is really perimenopause, because between 36 and 37, that is the time when the body is preparing to let go. And this is such an important thing to know and note, because the body is ready to have a baby between the ages of 15 to 35. And I used to talk about it. And I currently am in Southern California, where we do have a lot of pregnancies around that age, 15, 16, 17, 18. I have friends who are my generation. I'm 58 years old. They are in the late 50s or early 60s. And a lot of them, this was a common theme, is like, I left home when I was 15. I was pregnant when I was 15. I was pregnant when I was 16, and things like that. So when they had a baby, to this modern left brain universe, it's like, oh, you were a baby when you had a baby. My grandma had her first child when she was 13. No, she got married at 13. Her first baby was at 14, and her second baby was 15 and a half. That was my mom. And sometimes when we hear it, we're like, ew. But it was like they didn't even have to think about it. It's like the baby just rolled out of them. And then she had 3 kids. And I'm talking of stories from over 100 years ago, or like 90 years ago. And then 10 or 15 years later, they went ahead and had 3 more kids. A lot of people do that. I met women who had children as teenagers, and then they had kids in their 30s. So, and they did not have to go through tests the doctors take women when they're above 36, or they're like, oh, you're a senior or something like that. They have called people like, oh, you're a senior now. And I'm like, senior, you're not 65, you're like 37 or 38.
Yeah.
And you're trying to have a baby. So there's so much shame attached to that somehow. So can you tell us a little bit more?
There's so many women now in my generation who are choosing to wait to have children. They're not having kids in their 20s. Even in the, I have a friend, a very dear friend who just had her first child at 42. I have another friend who just had a child at 48. We are still very viably mothers at that time, but biologically speaking, our body has sort of started to relax out of those more childbearing years. So a woman who is between the ages of 15 and 34, their recovery from the pregnancy is different. And their experience through pregnancy and giving birth is a little bit different because of the hormonal changes. But when I talk about perimenopause, I'm not just talking about, everything has shut down, you're not fertile anymore. There's a gradual transition. Our body is actually so smart in the way that it's designed that it's not just this blip of time where it's a couple of years, it's awful and miserable, and then you're done. We actually have decades to kind of get used to the different signals that our body is sending to us. And again, she gets louder in her communication. For example, as a 20-year-old, we can go out and party all night. We can drink alcohol. We can eat a pan of brownie, and there are repercussions, but they're very, very small. We bounce back from that so quickly. In our late 30s through, beyond that, we don't bounce back as fast. And it's really our body just being like, I can't handle all of the shenanigans. And we as women do very much the same thing. We're not as interested in the shenanigans. We're not up for all-nighters. We're not up for all of the partying. There's a very good reason for that. And so it is the time when our body is saying, oh, I need more sleep. I need more water. I need more protein. I need less sugar. I need less things that are taking a toll on my body, and I need more things that are giving to my body.
Yeah, that's a great point. So it is like having those healthy boundaries, like listening to your body. Your body's always talking. Are you listening to your body? That's what I'm hearing you say. So,
Yeah.
So tell me, Kestrel, how do you take your client through this process? Somebody who comes to you and says that I heard you on this podcast and I'm curious, or maybe I just heard the term perimenopause, and I see you're a perimenopause coach. So how can you help me? So tell me, what do you take your client through the process?
So my process is in really deepening into sorry, my puppy is right here and she's going to make noise. So she's just going to sit here. So my process is really, first we look at the physical body because that's going to be the most uncomfortable. That's going to be the thing that really has your attention. So I work on a symptom basis because oftentimes allopathic methods have this very large range of numbers where they're looking to medicate us on one side or the other. And your body is giving you signals way before that and asking for support so that she doesn't go into depletion. Once she starts to be depleted in different areas, that's where we're going to start to have a bunch of symptoms. And I'm not just looking at the health of our ovaries, but I'm looking at the whole endocrine system. So what is happening with your adrenals is affecting your ovaries, is affecting your pancreas, is affecting your thyroid, is affecting your pineal gland, is affecting the pituitary gland. It's all linked together. So I have taken a lot of time to really research the symptoms. So the first thing we do is that we do an analysis of your symptoms. We write down everything, and that way I can get a baseline of where your body is talking the loudest, right? Where she's feeling the most depleted. And then I work with essential oils and supplements. I may recommend HRT if that seems indicated, because there is a time and a place for especially bioidentical hormone replacement therapy. But we want to get your body more comfortable first. And then once your body is feeling more supported and less depleted, then I work through the chakra system. So we're working on all of the different aspects of your body, not just the physical, but the energetic, the emotional, the mind, the mental chatter that you have going on, your connection to I call it the mean girl. Some people call it the monkey mind. I call it the inner mean girls that are just chattering and telling you all of the things, but that really puts you into your hormonal system, right? Like it can push you into fight or flight, as opposed to being in that deeper, calmer voice that tells you how powerful, how amazing, how enough you are. And so the deeper we can connect to that voice, the more we really have access to listening to not only our physical body, but all of the other aspects of our body as well.
That is a more holistic approach, I hear you saying. And I even see in your title, you call yourself the chakra solution person, expert. So that is because that would be my next question. So organically, we have gone into that is, so when someone comes to you, do you start from the body? Do you start from the energetics? Tell me, how do you take a person to that solution? Like, what is your MO?
So really it is I do want to get the baseline of the symptoms first, because usually, again, that's the most distracting for us. That's the place where we're the most uncomfortable. But everything that we experience physically, we experience emotionally and energetically first, right? And that's a really tough place to start, because what you're experiencing physically may be something from your childhood. It may be something from a past experience that is just now sort of showing up in your body. So I want to start with where your body is and just have you become more comfortable in your body. And then we can start to look at what I find for most women, especially in perimenopause, is that they're having issues in their relationship. A lot of women in this phase feel like they have a really low libido. And oftentimes that low libido is just they're resentful of their husband. There's so much past issues and miscommunications and different things that are happening. So being able to have an outlet for all of the emotions that we've stored that are keeping us sort of tamped down and locked down, that's often the place that I will start, is in that relationship. But it can be in whatever is coming up for that person. So sometimes it's money. Money is a really root chakra issue. It has to do with our survival. And so if we feel like we're in a place of lack, if we feel like we're not in a good place in our body, which again, in perimenopause, it's so easy to feel betrayed and not know what to give our body and not know how to listen to her and not know how to feed her properly. It has to do with our closest family members, and that can be moms, dads, brothers, sisters, but also husband and children. And so we'll work on those relationships as well. And then also sometimes we end up moving a lot. We just don't feel like we have a home or a sanctuary and a place that feels safe to us. And then oftentimes we can start to look at inner child and to figure out the core beliefs that our inner child has, which are the core beliefs that we actually hold, that are the things that are really the lens through which life is coming to us.
So tell me, how did you get started? Because everything is so fascinating and I resonate with all of it. So that is quite aligned with the work I do. So when you are like, just tell us how you got started and what keeps you going. Well, two in one.
So I think I got started, I want to say as early as 12 years old, and I got started in a disconnection with my body. I started with an eating disorder, with disliking my body so intensely that I developed an eating disorder that actually almost killed me when I was 26 years old. So since then I've been really on the search for how do I connect deeper to my body. She's been so good to me, especially with everything that I've put her through. She's been so graceful and so amazing at just her acceptance and her support and her just amazing resilience. And now, at 48 years old, I wish that I had known what an impact it was going to have on my hormones, on my blood sugar levels, on the way that I interact with the world now. So I have this our mess becomes our message, right? So I have this deep commitment to helping women find this relationship with their body where they're not at odds, where they're not fighting her, where she just wants us to love her and she wants to love us back. And so that's like the longer story, but a shorter story is that I got really fascinated with hormones. I started working with essential oils. I took a class, they talked about hormones, and I was like, these huge light bulbs went on for me. And so I got really fascinated with how essential oils work with and affect our hormones. And so then I would have clients who would come and they'd say, well, I need oils for my thyroid. And I was like, well, okay, but if it's your thyroid, you actually need oils for your adrenals, for your ovaries. We need to look at your pancreas. They're all connected. And it felt very overwhelming for my clients. And they were like, I can't do all that, right? We want that like quick fix. So I was still working on that and thinking, I wish there was an easy way to introduce women to how to support their hormones with oils that was like quick and easy. Then a friend of mine asked me if I wanted to be part of a chakra sisterhood. And I was like, yes, chakras are so fun and they're cute. And it was so intense. There was so much that came up. There was so much emotion. There was so much movement. And it wasn't just for me, but it was all of the women in the group. And so I was like, okay, there's got to be an oil for this. That's my solution. Everything is there has to be an oil for this. So I looked on Google for oils for your chakras, and I just found it to be so unsatisfying with what I knew the oils could offer and what I knew that I was experiencing. So my friend was like, why don't you take what you know about the chakras and the hormones and put them together? And it was like this huge light bulb, explosive light bulb went off. And I started to study hormones in relationship to your chakras, and they all line up almost exactly perfectly. And the more that I've studied them, the more I'm like, oh my gosh, the chakras are definitely the key to finding that hormonal health, right? And it's maybe not where you start because, again, we're experiencing things that may have happened years before emotionally and energetically that are now appearing in the body. So we address that first. And oils are brilliant at helping to address the physical, but they're also really brilliant at the energetic and the emotional. So I've actually channeled and used the oils to learn more about the chakras than anything else that I've done.
Lovely. And so are you your best client? Would you say that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I've been, so this was 10 years ago. I would have been 38. I did have my kids later. I had my first one at 34. I had my second one at 37. So I was in that geriatric category. um, the recovery, especially with my second one, was a lot harder. And that was where I started to become really interested in hormones and in supplementation and in essential oils to be able to support my body through that postnatal, also perimenopausal time period. And I found that they were really brilliant at doing that. And now I'm 48, so I'm 10 years later. I have very few symptoms of perimenopause, and I see other women my own age who are just, they're on their knees struggling with how awful they feel, with how hard this is, with how few answers they get. And I see them reaching for like one answer. Like, what is the right combination? And I have to keep explaining, like, it depends on where your depletion is. Your depletion is going to then, it's again, your body speaking to you and saying, I need more of this. I need less of this. So you can't just do what your friend is doing and expect to have the results in your body. You have to connect to your own body.
So what you offer is a concierge service. Like I have this friend of mine and I have worked with him for years, and he does flower essences.
Mm-hmm.
And people are like, oh, I have this bark remedies. I'll go pick one up, from Walmart or wherever. But this guy, he sits with you for an hour and he listens to you, and then he knows what to put together to get the right thing right for you right now. So I'm
Exactly.
hearing you're something like that you take your clients through an extremely personalized journey in finding what's right for them right now. That'd be
Right.
right.
And so it's definitely, again, addressing the physical body with supplements and oils, but then I also take them through getting to know their body better. So I am also certified to teach Pilates and yoga. And I've incorporated a lot of spiral technique. So spiraling in the same way that the chakra spiral, we spiral in our bodies. And so it's a yoga-based, dance-based technique. It's very, very fun, and it just gets you moving in your body. So that's the physical. Then I take people on, I do a lot of breath work, and there's breath work that is designed for each of the chakras to help just release what we don't even know we're storing in our system. I do guided meditations so that we can work on each aspect. There's a lot of different aspects when we get into the chakra work. So there's inner child, there is our shadow aspect, there is our higher self aspect. There's so many different aspects that I will introduce you to as just knowing your body as a whole, as knowing every piece and part of her and being able to incorporate that back in, as well as sort of pushing your boundaries of you being able to look at your mindset in a really quick way. One of the exercises I offer is hold your breath for 60 to 90 seconds. And that's a really great way to be confronted with your inner voice and all of the reasons you can't do it, right? And I think it's a really important to just notice how your brain clicks in like that.
Lovely. And I know all your information is going to be in the show notes and people can get a hold of you. Is there anything that you offer them in the form of like a free consult, free conversation, whatever it is, so they get to go deeper into what is it that you offer and how it can be of benefit to them, beneficial for them?
Absolutely. I love to do free consults for people where we just sit and you can deepen into all of the things that are bothering you, all of the things that you would like solutions for, and I just see if I can be a perfect fit for that.
Well, I think this was a very perfect, short and sweet conversation in which you really took people through this journey and got them thinking like, wow, this is also a possibility. Wow, this is also an option. And wow, there is someone with whom I can talk and go deeper and get to know more about what I can do to start feeling better in this perimenopausal phase that I'm going through, because I never had, like me personally, I never went through any of that. I knew what was going on. I'm like, okay, this is it, and only 3 days of my life I had hot flashes. I have never had flashes after that. I knew how to take care of myself. I took care of myself, and I'm 58, and I have been good and great, when it comes to all of those problems, those challenges. But this is not what I do for my clients. This is not how I put myself out there in the business world, like, hey, come to me and I'll take you through this, because my pet peeve is something else. So, which is forgiveness. And that's what I take
Well,
people through.
yeah,
But
I feel
I'm
like
glad that
there needs to be more conversation. That so much of the conversation I see around perimenopause is that it's horrible, it's awful, it's the worst time of your life, it's miserable, it's all of these, and it just doesn't have to be that way. And I think that we are definitely ready for the conversation of not having it be hush hush, not having it be something that everyone goes through but no one ever talks about. Women my age want to talk about it. We want to know what's going on. We want to know why it's going on. We want to know what our options are for living our best life. Like we're not willing to settle for the status quo. And there are women who are phenomenal like you who just don't have any symptoms, like who, again, I think a lot of it has to do with the inner voices and the inner talk that you have, and clearly you are very, very strong in your relationship to yourself.
yes, and that's it, and people have told me, how do you do what you do? I said, work with me. That's the only way I can take you through the process of what I do, and hold the space for you to start doing that for yourself the way you do yourself best.
Yeah.
And but there are people out there who are not ready to have that conversation. They'll be like, no, let me go and talk to my doctor. And that's also another path. That's a great path for those who don't, or are not ready for, or don't feel supported for this. It's all got to do with your inner energetics. So
Yes.
I'm glad that you also provide that for people who are just curious to get to know you and know what you can do for them and share with them. And thank you so much for your time today, Kestrel. I'm so happy that we got to meet, we got to connect, and we got to have this conversation. And let's see where this, because this is a gift. This is a great gift to the world, to the women in the Western world who are going through this and don't have someone to talk to.
Thank
No,
you so much.
don't have, yes. And I look forward to us seeing each other again on the other places that we bump into each other.
If I could
Lots of love.
be
Bye for now.
anywhere, I'd be here with you, sharing our healing hearts, our hope and our truth. Joy overflows here at the crossroads. Here at the crossroads. Oh, here at the crossroads.